Hello, and welcome to another episode of Family Talks, where we interview various members of our West Virginia Baptist Convention family to learn how we can better do Christ's work together. Today, we have with us Pastor David Bess. David is the pastor at Beulah Baptist Church in Grafton, West Virginia, and is the chair member of the Russia Mission Partnership team. And so, welcome, David. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Todd. It's good to talk on Russia missions.
Absolutely. And so tomorrow night, as part of our West Virginia Baptist Convention family celebration, we are going to be talking, focusing on missions and learning about various mission partnerships. And we're going to hear an update from the Russia Mission Partnership. But I first also just wanted to talk to David a little bit and just, first high level, what is the Russia Mission Partnership?
The Russia Mission Partnership was started back in 2001, and Greg Creasy was the chairman of World Missions, or director of World Missions for the state convention. And so he got together with some other folks in the convention, and they started exploring the possibilities of a partnership with Russia, with Russia Baptist. And of course, the Soviet Union had gone out of existence about 10 years earlier. So it was a very exciting opportunity at the time to get into Russia. And to work with the folks there. So it all began back in 2001, and then it just evolved over time and just grew. Greg led the partnership for several years, and then Holly Faulkner came on. He was a leader for several years. Greg came back for a few years. Then in 2014, I took over as chairman. So it's about 20 years old, so it's been around for a while.
And so how did you get involved, David?
I got involved in around 2006, 2007. I was at Oakwood Baptist Church at the time, pastoring there. And Holly Faulkner came in and gave us a presentation on Russia missions. And I was just very much captivated by that and felt led to get involved with it. So my first trip was in, I believe, 2007. And so once I got over there and met the Russian people and saw their enthusiasm for Christ, I was just really captured by that. And so I became a part of that and took some other trips. And then in 2014, took over as the chairman. So it all began around 2006, 2007.
Okay. And I know that you have several board members that are part of the Russia Mission Partnership team, and you focus on a variety of different things, such as church planting and economic development. Can you share a little bit about what some of your focuses are?
Yeah, the economic development, I'll start with that. That's probably been the most consistent since it's begun. And it basically started with a grant from One Great Hour of Sharing. And so we now have a certain amount of funds that we can loan out to business people in the churches of Liaison, which Liaison is an oblast. We have states here in the United States. Russia has oblasts. And so we minister in the Liaison oblast. And so there's about 20 churches now that are in that oblast. But there are businessmen and businesswomen that want to start up businesses. And so we have an agreement with them that we will loan them up to a certain amount of money to help them get that business off the ground. Part of the agreement there is that they tithe back to their church once they've paid off the loan, or during the time they have the loan, and then when they pay it off, and then continue to tithe to the church. So this is a way for us with missions, not just to give a hand out, but to give a hand up. And so we strengthen the churches. They have businessmen and businesswomen that can give to their churches. And so that just benefits everybody.
Okay.
And so Keith Miller, he's been with us for quite a while. He wasn't with us right at the beginning, but he's been with us a long time. And he oversees that and does an excellent job with it. He goes over about twice a year, checks on the business loans, that sort of thing, has a wonderful rapport with the Russian people there. And so he administers that whole program for us. But we've seen a lot of good things come out of that. Taxi businesses, clothing stores, auto parts, that sort of thing. A variety of different businesses have started. And so it's been very, very helpful for the Russian churches.
Okay. Yeah, that's fantastic. And some of the other focuses?
Some of the others. We also have partnerships with churches. And so we'll have a church in the West Virginia Baptist Convention. They will decide to partner with one of the churches in the Liaison Baptist Union. And so they get to know one another. They exchange emails. They may have links together on Facebook. They may have YouTube, not YouTube, but Skype meetings and maybe even Zoom meetings, that sort of thing. And then there's usually financial support given as a partner church. And so we have several of those across the state. Some give through the state convention. We have a few that give directly. But that's another means in which we help people out. And then there's really three. I've mentioned two. The third one is just the relationships that we have. I've formed relationships with various people there in the Liaison Baptist Union. And so I'll catch them on Facebook. We send one another greetings. We see one another as often as possible when we go over on trips. So there's just that mutual kind of support and inspiration that we give to one another, even though we're on different sides of the world.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Now you mentioned church partnerships. To circle back around to that real quick, how many churches make up the Liaison Baptist?
Right now, we have about 20 churches in the Liaison Baptist Union. Probably we have about 12 that are really strong churches, but the Liaison Baptists are big on missions. They're big on starting churches, so it's a number of those churches are very small. The last time we went over, we were visiting a church plant, and they were beginning to start a building project. They actually had the foundation laid, and so we were supporting them in that and encouraging them in that. But there's probably about 11 or 12 that are really strong, established churches, and then they're reaching out to other folks in the community.
And how many of those are currently partnering with West Virginia Baptist Convention churches?
I would say 5 or 6, and we have about probably 3 or 4 that are going through the state convention where they give through the official channels, but we probably have at least 2 or 3 others where the money is sent to them directly.
Okay. And for a church, yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just thinking, for a church, someone's listening, a church or a church member or pastor who is interested in connecting and partnering with one of these churches. Again, you've hit it on a little bit, what that partnership looks like, but how would they even begin to form that partnership with the church?
Get in touch with me. We have other mission reps as well. We have a website that you can look to that and get information on the partnership. There's a history of the partnership there. There's some things that we're currently doing. That's linked on the state convention website. You have to go to mission partnerships and then go to the drop down menu and go to it from there. But they can find out a lot of information. They can get in touch with me or one of the other leaders of the team, and we'll be glad to give more information on what it means to be a partner with a Liaison Baptist church.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Let me just jump in and say as well that one of the things that excites me is that how much that the Russian people can do with so little. It seems like that here in the United States, oftentimes we may seem to have an abundance of money, but we don't use it that well. But in Russia, it seems like that they are so focused on missions. They're so focused on evangelism. And so they're stretching their resources just as far as they can. And they're doing tremendous things. They're planting churches, even though the churches that are planting them are very small. And so they're laser focused on missions. They're focused on evangelism. They love to worship together. It's not unusual to have a 2-hour worship service and to have 2 people preaching. And so they're just hungry for God's word. So that kind of thing, it's an inspiration, not just to them when we go see them or when we interact with them, but it's an inspiration to us to see the kind of things that they're doing and the kind of ministry that they're accomplishing there in Liaison.
Yeah. And how, just thinking about today and obviously COVID has had a major impact here in the U.S. What sort of impact has it had on the churches there?
About the same. I've heard from folks there where there was a long time where they were just streaming their services. And they're pretty savvy with the internet there, so especially in the city churches. So people were just picking that up and doing what they could from their homes. Now they're getting back together, and they have some of the precautions that we have. So it's very similar, and the partnership really hasn't been completely on hold, but our activities have been curtailed a lot because of COVID. We can't travel, we can't plan a mission trip. There's not as many things happening over there as there would normally be because of COVID. So things have slowed down quite a bit in the past year.
Okay. One thing that's gotten a little bit of publicity this year, especially among the American Baptist women, is Camp Alpha. Yes. And I know Camp Alpha, they weren't able to host camps this past summer, similar to the way our own Camp Cowen has not been able to host camps this past year. But can you talk a little bit about just the overall ministry of Camp Alpha?
I would love to talk about Camp Alpha. When we went over the last time, which was in 2018, and took a trip over, and we had a good team there where we went, had about 6 or 7 folks, but we went to Camp Alpha and we saw what they had there. They have a good piece of property. They've purchased that. They're beginning to build their camp facility on it. It's a lot like Camp Cowen was in its very early stages. It resembles Parchment Valley a little bit as well, because they purchased the property and there's an old barn right in the middle of the property. So it reminds me of the Parchment Valley days, which I remember when things started off, and Parchment Valley just had an old barn there. And so, but they're building as they can. Their funds are limited, so they're doing what they can there. But back in 2019, they had a camp, and I believe they had about 20 young people that made decisions for Christ. So that was an exciting thing. But as I said, they're very evangelistic there, and they're eager to develop the camp and to get things started even more and to have even more ministry there. But this year, because of COVID, they didn't have a camp at all, but they're still doing what they can to build up the facility and all that. So the American Baptist Women of West Virginia have taken that on as a project. They took it on last year as the missions project. They just decided to continue that for another year because of COVID and some of the low giving that was characteristic of the churches. And so I'm excited about that because it helps out our Russian brothers and sisters and helps them get this camp off the ground.
Yeah, an exciting thing. And for those who know the impact that Cowen has had on their own life, just think about that just in another context, a place where people meet Jesus. And so obviously.
Right. There was like a little campfire that was there in the middle of the property when we visited with them. As I said, the barn was there. They have a couple of what you could call cabins, for lack of a better word. They were storage containers that had been modified into a cabin where you'd have a place for some of the youth to sleep. Their eating facility was just basically a bunch of picnic tables under a shelter. That's all they have right now. But they're building and they're growing and they're excited about it. So the women of the state are really performing a great service and help to the people of Liaison, helping them to get this started. They have goals of putting a fence around their property, which is very, very important to the Russian people. It's just very customary for them to do that. They're also wanting to build a large dining hall and a meeting facility there and a larger dorm that would be above the dining hall. And then another project is to dig a well on the property there so they can have a good source of water. So anyway, they've got a lot of plans and they're very ambitious and they're trusting the Lord. And so we'll just see how all this works out. But it's exciting to see their dedication and it's exciting to see it growing and developing.
Yeah, because again, that's exciting, and you already hit on this with the church partnerships, but just for individuals or churches who are interested in giving or getting involved or even potentially going on a future mission trip, the best way to do that would just be to contact you.
Yes, contact me. And then if you want to give, if somebody sees this and they just like to give to Russia Missions, they can just send it into the state office and then designate that for Russia Missions. And you guys will make sure that it gets to us and that we can use that however they want it to be used. If they want to send it to a particular church, they can do that. And I believe we may have some churches named on the website. And then if they want to send it to Camp Alpha, which is very popular right now, they could just designate it for Russia Missions Camp Alpha. We can get it there. Or if they just want it to be used for general purposes. We have a fund that's used to help out with mission trips. Sometimes we bring Russia mission leaders over here. Or Russia church leaders over here. So we've done that in the past. We wanted to do that back in 2019. I think it was last year. We had a young man and his wife who were very active in the Liaison Baptist churches over there, but they were expecting their first child. And so that just put the brakes on that. We didn't want to bring her over expecting a child. But they've had the child now. The baby's doing great. So we may bring him over maybe next year or a year after that, so they can come and they can visit around with churches. And so it's another way of getting people acquainted with Russia Missions.
Yeah. Again, fantastic. And another thing just to point out about the Russia Mission Partnership team, you have various members kind of really all around the state. And so, for churches who are interested, I know a lot of churches are online right now, and that may even open some opportunities that David or others could meet with your church online, or
Right.
even, some members from, the Liaison Baptist, set up some Skype meetings. But, when churches do return to in-person gatherings, there are opportunities. There are various members of the Russia Mission Partnership team, I think, would probably love to come and speak more about the partnership.
Right. And we do have a Facebook page for Russia Missions, for the Russia Mission Partnership. And people may go to that page and may think, well, I don't see anything that's been posted there for a while. There's things happening over in Liaison, but due to the nature of the government's increasingly cracking down. In 2016, they passed a very restrictive law that prevents us from doing a lot of the things that we did in the past. We used to go and preach and teach and lead vacation Bible schools, that sort of thing. We're not able to do those right now. So we can go over and be supportive of them. We can help them with building projects. We can continue with the economic development. So a lot of the things are somewhat under the radar, so we don't put them out on the internet for fear of getting them in trouble or causing problems with them for the Russian government. So it's a little bit more of a thing that we don't publicize as much as we'd like. But if you contact one of our team members, we'll be glad to come into your church and talk to you on the phone, or whatever we can do to help you with any questions you have and get you more into Russia missions.
And is there an email address that's best for you?
Mm-hmm. BessDR@WVUSA.org.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure that's on the Facebook page. I'll double check when we finish with this and make sure it's there.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. And just last question, as we begin to wrap this up, any prayer points, anything that individuals can be praying for the Russia Baptists, or for the Liaison Baptists?
One of the main things is for us to have wisdom and creativity to work around this new Russian law. It was a new law in 2016. It's 4 years old now, but it's really challenged us with Russia missions as to how we can still minister to these folks and help them. The government is beginning to tighten down on religious liberties that they had. When the Soviet Union first went out of existence and the Russian government came into place, there was much more liberty than there is now. So things are being restricted somewhat. We're limited in what we can do, but we've had to get creative and focus more on relationships, that sort of thing, going over and just encouraging them, which really is one of the best things that we can do, to get together with them, to build the relationships, encourage them in what they're doing, helping them financially. So I think a prayer for wisdom for the team, and then also just for them, that they would have the courage to stand up and share the gospel. Now, if they go out and evangelize in some of their communities, they may get into trouble with the government if they do it in the wrong way. So prayers for them to have courage and boldness in their faith. It's an exciting time for the partnership because they're standing up for the Lord despite government opposition, but it's also a challenging time. So just prayers for all of that.
Yeah. And again, fantastic opportunities. And again, if you're listening, I would highly encourage you, to get involved, at the most basic level with prayer, but, visit their Facebook page, visit the website, learn all you can. If you're part of the ABW group, consider rallying your church to raise funds for Camp Alpha. Again, just thinking about just the impact that Cowen has had on your own life, and to think, translate that, to the other side of the world, and just the potential impact there.
And one other thing here, if I can just throw this in before this is over. I grew up in the Cold War. And so being a baby boomer, I remember well the videos of Soviet tanks and all of that rolling through Red Square. And so now to meet side by side with Russian brothers and sisters in Christ, and say, for example, to sing in a church service, "How Great Thou Art." They're singing in Russian, we're singing in English, but we're praising the same God, and we're brothers and sisters in Christ, and seeing that wall of animosity torn down. And even now, there's some animosity between the Russian government and the United States government, but to know that we're one in Christ, that's just a tremendously moving and inspiring thing. So that's one of the many benefits of getting involved in Russia missions. You see how powerfully God is at work.
Yeah, just a little glimpse of what heaven's going to be like.
Exactly.
Well, again, thank you, David. Thank you for joining us today. And like I said, feel free to follow up with David. Visit their Facebook page, visit their website, contact David directly, and or even contact myself. And again, I'd love to get you plugged in.
Yeah, we'd love to have all the support and all the participation we can.
Yeah. And again, thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next week on Family Talks.
Take care, Todd.